You've been lied to, not in a malicious way, not in a conspiratorial sense, but in the quiet, invisible way the world conditions you to stay exactly where you are. You work hard, you follow the rules, you climb the ladder, and yet every night you lie in bed wondering why freedom still feels like a myth. Quick question. Comment yes if you've ever calculated how many more Mondays you have until retirement. Depressing, right? You wake up earlier, hustle longer, outperform everyone in your team, your class, your town, but you're still stuck. Stuck in traffic, stuck in debt, stuck in a game where the finish line keeps moving just out of reach. Here's a fun fact. The average person spends 90,000 hours at work over their lifetime. That's 10 years of nonstop working, no sleep, no breaks. And for what? To retire at 65 and finally start living? Deep down, you've felt it. That quiet suspicion that the people who tell you to grind harder are the ones profiting most from your exhaustion. That no matter how many hours you put in, you're still just renting your life one paycheck at a time. But what if I told you that some of the wealthiest, happiest people in the world no longer trade time for money at all? What if they're not even playing the same game as you? There's a name you might have heard whispered in startup circles, podcast snippets, or Twitter threads that feel more like scripture than status updates. Naval Ravikant. A man who doesn't just preach wealth, he decodes it. A man who figured out how to escape the trap and left behind breadcrumbs for the rest of us. In the next few minutes, you won't be watching another motivation reel. You'll be handed a new operating system for thinking, building, and living. But first, I want you to ask yourself a dangerous question, the kind most people never dare to consider. What if everything you believe about work, success, and happiness is wrong? Section 2, The Trap of Hustle. Why most smart people stay poor. You were told to work hard, that if you just gave more hours, more effort, more of yourself, eventually life would pay you back. You believed it. How could you not? Everyone around you was repeating it like a prayer. Study harder, get into a good school, land a solid job, climb the corporate ladder, save, retire, die. Ah yes, the classic life plan. Very inspiring. Right up there with live, laugh, love wall decals, and Monday motivation LinkedIn posts. And maybe, just maybe, if you're lucky, you'll be able to squeeze in a few years of happiness before the clock runs out. But something doesn't feel right, does it? You've done the work. You've checked the boxes. And yet, the reward never matches the effort. Here's what they don't tell you. According to Federal Reserve data, the median net worth of Americans aged 35 to 44 is just $91,300 after 20 years of grinding. Meanwhile, the top 1% holds 35% of all wealth. The game isn't just hard, it's designed for you to lose. You're not broken, the system is. You're not losing because you're not trying hard enough. You're losing because you're playing the wrong game. The wealthy don't play by these rules. They never did. Naval Ravikant figured that out early. At first, he did what you're doing. He chased deals, hustled meetings, tried to outgrind the world. He looked successful from the outside, until he realized he was just a glorified laborer. The only difference between him and a factory worker was the dress code. He was still selling hours, still sacrificing life for leverage he didn't have. Pause for a second. Calculate your real hourly wage, not just salary divided by 40 hours. Include your commute, the emails at night, the Sunday anxiety. What's the real number? Painful, isn't it? So he stopped. He stopped saying yes to every opportunity. He stopped selling time. He started building leverage, things that could work while he didn't. Code, content, capital. Naval didn't become wealthy by grinding harder. He became wealthy by changing the game. Here's the truth. Hard work is not the path to freedom. It's the path to burnout. And the reason you feel exhausted isn't because you're weak. It's because you're smart. Smart enough to feel the subtle insanity of trading your one non-renewable resource, time, for something as slippery and ever demanding as money. If you want to escape the trap, you must first see the cage. The cage is the 9 to 5 that drains your energy but never builds your equity. The cage is the weekend dopamine drip designed to keep you addicted to the same loop. The cage is the praise you get for staying late at a job that wouldn't hesitate to replace you. And the cruelest part? The cage rewards obedience. But wealth rewards courage. So here's the shift. Stop thinking like a worker. Start thinking like a builder. Builders create systems. Builders create things that grow in value even when they sleep. Builders don't chase freedom, they architect it. Naval calls this productizing yourself, turning your knowledge, your insight, your uniqueness into something that scales beyond your presence. The internet gives you infinite leverage, but only if you stop selling your time and start selling your value. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You don't need a trust fund. You just need to stop believing that hard work alone will save you. It won't. It was never meant to. So ask yourself this. What could you build once that keeps working without you? A course? A YouTube video? A no-code app? A business you own instead of serve? Even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, even if no one notices at first. Here's a challenge. Write down one thing you've explained to 3 different people this month. That repetition? That's a product waiting to be born. Drop it in the comments. I read everyone. Because once you take the first step out of the hustle trap, your entire world starts to bend in a different direction. And suddenly, freedom stops being this blurry future fantasy and starts becoming something real, something buildable, something inevitable. And that's when it begins, when you stop working inside the system and begin to build one of your own. But if hard work won't make you rich, then what will? What do the wealthy use that the rest of us ignore, forget, or dismiss? In the next chapter, you'll uncover the most underestimated force in modern wealth and how the internet quietly made it available to everyone, including you. Section 3. The game of wealth is rigged unless you change the game. If you've ever felt like you're running on a treadmill, going faster but never arriving, you're not imagining things. The game is rigged, not by evil corporations or secret societies, but by something far more deceptive: tradition. You know, the same tradition that said the internet was a fad, Bitcoin was fake money, and remote work would never last. That tradition. You were handed a script, not a strategy, and that script told you to follow the crowd, play it safe, and wait your turn. But the people who are winning, really winning, aren't waiting. They're not asking for permission. They're not even playing on the same field. While most are busy competing for scraps, the wealthy are building engines of leverage, and leverage changes everything. Naval calls leverage a force multiplier for your judgment. It means your decisions, your insights, your creations, once paired with the right tools, can echo without your presence. Think about it. Labor is linear, 1 hour, 1 result. But leverage is exponential, 1 idea, infinite outcomes. Consider this. Joe Rogan records 3 to 4 podcasts per week. Each episode gets millions of downloads. He made $200 million from Spotify. That's leverage. 1 conversation, millions of ears, generational wealth. Your 9 to 5, that's the opposite of leverage. There are 3 kinds of leverage that matter in the modern world. The first is capital, money that works for you, earns for you, grows without you. The second is people, teams, contractors, employees who scale your output beyond your own hands. But the third is the one that changed the rules forever: code and content. Products you can build once and sell forever. Words you can write once that get read 1 million times. Videos, apps, algorithms, podcasts, ebooks. Replicable value at 0 marginal cost. $5 billion in 2021. Not from working more hours, from videos they uploaded once. Mr. Beast's Squid Game video, 450 million views, created once, earning forever. This is permissionless leverage. You don't need a CEO's blessing or a billionaire's bankroll. You just need creativity, a connection, and the courage to publish. That's why the internet is the single greatest wealth-building tool in human history, but only for those who know how to use it. Because while you're scrolling, others are stacking. While you're posting for likes, others are creating for legacy. Naval used all 3 types of leverage to escape the game. He took equity instead of salary. He wrote viral thoughts instead of resumes. He invested in ideas, not hours. And the irony? Once he stopped chasing money, it flooded in. Because the people who understand leverage don't chase, they attract. And suddenly, you begin to see the pattern. The reason why 2 people can work the same hours but create entirely different outcomes. One is still trading sweat for coins. The other? They're stacking leverage like compound interest. Quick reality check. How many income streams do you even that work while you sleep? 0? 1? If it's less than 3, you're still playing the old game. No judgment, just awareness. But here's the twist. You're already holding some form of leverage. You just might not be using it. Maybe it's your unique knowledge, your quirky obsession, your ability to explain things others can't. Hidden within you is a skill that, when paired with technology or media, becomes unstoppable. The question isn't if you can escape the rat race. It's whether you're brave enough to learn the new rules, to stop clinging to outdated maps, to admit that what got you here won't get you there. So here's your next challenge. Identify your unfair advantage, the thing you do weirdly well. Now ask, how can I scale this with leverage? Can I teach it, build it, code it, share it? And leverage isn't something you're given, it's something you build, and the sooner you start, the faster freedom finds you. But even leverage needs a compass, because if you build the wrong thing, even at scale, you still end up lost. So, how do you find what's truly worth building? What kind of knowledge is actually non-competitive, irreplaceable, and timeless? In the next section, we'll explore a concept so powerful. Naval says it can't be taught, but once you find it, it becomes the engine of your wealth. Section 4, specific knowledge. The one thing that can't be taught, but will set you free. There's a kind of knowledge no school can teach, no certification can validate, and no algorithm can replicate. It's not found in textbooks, yet it unlocks wealth, freedom, and fulfillment in ways no degree ever could. Naval calls it specific knowledge. And if you don't have it yet, you're not broken. You're just still playing someone else's game. Specific knowledge is like your weird superpower. You know, like how some people can fold fitted sheets perfectly, except actually valuable. Specific knowledge is the thing you were born to express, but the world trained you to suppress. It's weird. It's niche. It's often useless in a classroom, but priceless in the market. And once you discover it, you stop competing. Because no one can compete with you when you're being fully, unapologetically yourself. But here's the part most people miss. Specific knowledge is never given. It's uncovered. You don't find it by asking your boss or Googling best careers in 2025. You find it by following your obsessions. The stuff you do, even if nobody paid you. The rabbit holes you fall into when no one's watching. That thing you think is just your quirky interest might actually be the exact thread that leads you to wealth. Study after study shows that 87% of self-made millionaires attribute their wealth to leveraging unique knowledge or skills, not formal education. The average millionaire has 7 income streams, most built on specific knowledge they couldn't learn in school. Naval says, play long-term games with long-term people, and play those games in arenas where you are naturally talented, and no one can compete with you. That's specific knowledge in action. It's not about being better. It's about being different in a way that's deeply aligned. Look at anyone who's built massive success without following a conventional path. Odds are, they leaned into something wildly specific. Mr. Beast made millions eating hot wings and filming stunts. Tim Ferriss turned life experiments into a best-selling empire. Here's an exercise. What's the one topic your friends are sick of hearing you talk about? That obsession you try to tone down at parties? That's not annoying. That's your specific knowledge showing itself. Share it below. Own your weirdness. People don't get rich doing what everyone else does. They get rich doing what only they can do, and sharing it at scale. That's the key. You don't just find specific knowledge. You package it. You productize yourself. When your uniqueness becomes useful to others, and you pair that with leverage, the entire world becomes your market. So, how do you find it? Start by listening to your curiosity. What books do you read for fun? What topics make you lose track of time? What problems do people always ask you to help them with? Your specific knowledge leaves clues. Track them. Collect them. Study your past like an archaeologist digging through lost treasure. Then test, publish, build, share. Because specific knowledge only becomes valuable once it touches the world. And here's the liberating truth. You don't need 100 skills. You just need one, expressed deeply, and paired with leverage. That's it. That's the escape hatch. But most people never look for it. They're too busy trying to become someone they're not, to impress people they don't like, in a race they never chose. You're smarter than that. If you weren't, you wouldn't be here. And if you're still reading this, a part of you knows it's time. So, pause now. Close your eyes. Ask yourself, what do I do better than anyone I know, but I've never seen it as valuable? Then write, sketch, build. Let your weirdness lead. Because the moment you stop suppressing your specificity and start scaling it, you stop chasing success and start attracting it. But having specific knowledge is only half the story. The next step, escaping the gravitational pull of competition entirely. Because even with rare skills, you're still stuck, unless you learn the ultimate secret, how to win by being authentically you. In the next section, you'll learn how to make competition irrelevant, not by beating the game, but by building one no one else can play. Section 5. Escaping competition through authenticity. It starts subtly. You admire someone online, how they speak, how they dress, how they write. And before you realize it, you begin to mirror them. Just a little. Their phrases slip into your voice. Their style becomes your template. Their success, your new yardstick. We've all been there. One day you're yourself. The next you're speaking in Gary V sound bites and ending every sentence with LFG. Plot twist, Gary V doesn't even talk like Gary V at home. At first, it feels like evolution, but slowly, quietly, it becomes imitation. And imitation is the fastest way to lose yourself and your edge. Because here's the paradox no one tells you. The more you copy, the more invisible you become. And the more you are, the more unstoppable you get. Naval doesn't say outwork the competition, he says escape it. And the way out isn't strategy, it's authenticity. Authenticity isn't a buzzword, it's a lever. Most people are afraid to be seen for who they really are, so they wear masks. But those masks come at a cost: generic effort, replaceable output, forgettable impact. Research from Harvard Business Review shows that authentic leaders are 5 times more likely to build loyal followings and 3.5 times more likely to create profitable ventures. Why? Because trust converts better than tactics. The people who rise above the noise didn't try to blend in. They leaned in. Mr. Beast didn't try to become another Casey Neistat. He filmed what obsessed him, even when it looked ridiculous. Tim Urban didn't write like a productivity guru. He doodled stick figures, made jokes about procrastination, and suddenly became the voice of a generation. Naval, he shared brutally honest truths in 140 characters. No filter, no fluff. Because when you stop competing on sameness, you start winning on truth. Here's why authenticity kills competition. It cannot be replicated. It's the one advantage no one can steal. You can't outsource your voice. You can't commoditize your quirks. And the internet, it rewards that. The more raw, real, and reflective you are, the more you build trust, magnetism, and momentum. People don't follow perfect personas, they follow energy. And real energy only comes from alignment. Alignment between who you are, what you create, and how you share it. That's why Naval says, escape competition through authenticity. Because when you stop pretending, you stop competing. Time for brutal honesty. What's one thing about your work style, personality, or approach that you hide because it's not professional? That thing you're hiding, that's probably your superpower. Drop it below. Let's normalize being real. But being authentic doesn't mean being loud, weird, or wildly personal. It just means being consistent with your truth. What do you believe deeply, but rarely say? What makes you light up, but you hide because it's not professional? What do you secretly want to build, say, share, but fear it won't be accepted? That's your edge. The algorithm can't find it, but your audience can feel it. And when they feel it, they'll follow. Not just your content, but your movement. So, how do you practice authenticity as leverage? You publish before you're ready. You speak in your real tone, not your resume voice. You post the idea that makes your heart beat faster, not the one that feels safest. And slowly, your voice sharpens. Your tribe finds you, and your competition fades into background noise. Because no one can beat you at being you, when you've mastered the courage to be you. Now take a breath. Ask yourself this. What am I afraid to share because it's too me? That's the signal. That's where your power lives. Follow that signal, and you'll never need to hustle for attention again. But authenticity still needs a vessel. You can be real all day, but if you're still trading time for money, you're stuck. So, how do you channel your authenticity into freedom? The answer lies in building something once, and letting it work forever. In the next section, you'll learn the real secret of modern wealth. How to build assets that scale without your presence, powered by code, content, and capital. Section 6. Build once, sell forever. The new path to wealth. Imagine this. You build something once, just once, and it keeps working for you, even while you sleep. No client deadlines, no hourly rates, no endless hustle. Just a quiet engine running in the background, stacking value day after day. This isn't fantasy. It's leverage in action. And in the modern world, it's the only wealth strategy that scales without burning you out. It's like having a money tree, except instead of water and sunlight, it needs Wi-Fi and occasional updates. Much more realistic than the crypto fortune your cousin promised you. Naval says, productize yourself. What he means is simple. Turn your knowledge, your creativity, your obsessions into assets. Digital, scalable, permissionless assets. And when you do, you stop earning like a laborer and start compounding like a founder. Here's the trap most people fall into. They keep getting paid per unit of time. It feels secure, but it's fragile. One bad month, one missed client, one unexpected illness, and the whole thing collapses. The shocking truth, 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, including 10% earning over $100,000. Why? Because linear income doesn't scale with life's exponential costs. But when you create something once that others can use, watch, buy, or learn from over and over again, you flip the script. Time becomes your ally. Compound growth becomes your friend. Whether it's a digital course, a book, a podcast, a YouTube video, a SaaS tool, or even a tweet storm that leads to something deeper, it's all leverage, built once, distributed infinitely. Cost, one effort. Return, uncapped. This is where the internet becomes your secret weapon. Never in history has a single person been able to reach millions with zero gatekeepers, but only if they build something worth sharing. That's the challenge and the opportunity. Don't just work, build. Don't just post, package. Don't just hustle, harvest. Because in a world of infinite noise, the ones who win aren't the ones screaming louder. They're the ones whose work multiplies without them. Think of Naval. He didn't publish daily blog posts, grind webinars, or launch endless products. He dropped one podcast episode, one Twitter thread, one book, and it changed everything. Why? Because it wasn't about frequency. It was about leverage. He built assets that delivered disproportionate value. They didn't need him to show up every day. They just needed to exist. Your turn to strategize. If you had to create one thing in the next 30 days that could potentially earn money for the next 30 months, what would it be? A guide, a tool, a video series? Commit to it in the comments. Accountability changes everything. So, here's your mission. Stop thinking like a worker. Start thinking like an investor of your own time, mind, and uniqueness. Ask yourself, what can I build in the next 30 days that could still serve me in 3 years? It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real, honest, scalable. That's the key. And once you taste it, you'll never go back. You'll look at trading hours for dollars the way farmers look at hunting rats. Inefficient, exhausting, and unsustainable. Want a prompt to begin? Good, because here it is. What are 3 problems people keep asking you to solve? What's one way to solve just one of them, in a way that doesn't require your future involvement? Sketch it, make it, post it. Now it exists. Now it grows. Now it frees you. Because that's what real assets do. They liberate you. But building assets requires patience. And patience is painful in a world addicted to instant gratification. So, how do you resist the urge to chase short-term dopamine and stay anchored to long-term compounding? In the next section, you'll learn how to stop sprinting in circles and start playing infinite games that reward the builders who dare to wait. Section 7. Play long-term games. How to compound freedom, not just money. If you're tired, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been playing short games in a world that rewards the long ones. Every scroll, every like, every dopamine hit, it trains you to seek fast wins. But real wealth, real freedom, they grow slowly, quietly, invisibly, then all at once. Warren Buffett made 99% of his wealth after age 50. Not because he found a secret at 50, but because compound interest needs time. $81.5 billion of his $85 billion net worth came after his 65th birthday. Time in the game beats timing the game. Naval calls it the compound effect. But not just in money, in relationships, in skills, in trust, in reputation. And here's the truth that hurts at first, but frees you forever. If you keep switching games, chasing hacks, jumping trends, you reset your progress every single time. It's not that you're failing. You're just not staying long enough to compound. Imagine planting a tree, then digging it up after a week because it didn't bear fruit. That's what most people do with their projects, jobs, even their personal brand. They start. It gets hard. They switch. Again and again. It's like dating apps for careers. Swipe left on this business model, swipe right on that trend. Meanwhile, the boring guy who stuck with his newsletter for 5 years is quietly banking 6 figures a month. But the top 1%, they do the opposite. They pick a game and stay. They go deep instead of wide. They build when it's boring. They show up when it's silent. They play through winters. Because they know something the rest don't. Trust isn't built in weeks, it's built in decades. And trust, whether in a person, a product, or a voice, is the most valuable asset in the world. Naval says, play long-term games with long-term people. What he means is this: choose arenas where effort compounds, code, content, capital, communities. Choose partners, friends, teams who think in years, not days. Avoid mercenaries, find missionaries. When you do, every small act becomes an investment, every interaction a deposit. And over time, your returns stop being linear. They become explosive. Reality check time. What's one project or skill you've been working on for more than a year? If you can't name one, that's your first problem to solve. Share your longest game below. Let's celebrate the builders playing for decades, not days. But playing long-term games requires one uncomfortable quality: patience. Not the kind where you wait passively, but the kind where you build actively, even when no one claps. It's the patience of farmers, not gamblers. You plant seeds daily. You water them with consistency. You defend them from distraction. And one day, without warning, the harvest arrives. And everyone calls you lucky, but you'll know it wasn't luck. It was time, aligned with intention. So ask yourself, what are you willing to be bad at for a long time? Because you believe in the compounding. What skill, message, or system could you keep showing up for until it shows up for you? Because when you align your game with your nature and your time with your intention, you unlock what Naval calls inevitability. You stop wondering if it'll work. You just focus on when. And here's the paradox. The longer the time horizon, the simpler the game. You need fewer moves, fewer tricks, fewer plays. Because when you know you're building for 10 years, you stop chasing quarterly wins. You start optimizing for truth, and truth always compounds. But long games require energy. They demand clarity, direction, and purpose. And most people burn out not because they do too much, but because they don't know why they're doing it. In the next section, you'll uncover the hidden reason most builders quit, and the mindset shift that keeps you going, even when the path disappears under your feet. Section 8. Know your why. The invisible engine behind endurance. You can have the perfect strategy, the tools, the leverage, even the audience. But if you don't know why you're building, truly, deeply know, you'll burn out before the first results show up. Because tactics are fragile, trends fade, but purpose survives the winter. Simon Sinek's research shows that purpose-driven companies outperform the S&P 500 by 10 times. Purpose-driven individuals, they're 3 times more likely to maintain efforts beyond the 1-year mark when others quit. Naval doesn't scream about finding your why like some over-caffeinated life coach. Instead, he whispers something more dangerous. If you don't define success for yourself, someone else will sell you their version, and you'll pay for it with your life. So ask yourself, who's setting your goals? The algorithm, your parents, your peers? Most people spend years climbing a ladder, only to find it was leaning against the wrong wall. They build someone else's dream, chase someone else's status, and in the process, lose themselves. It's like using someone else's GPS to navigate your life. Sure, you'll arrive somewhere, probably their destination, with their music playing, wondering why nothing feels right. But you're here. That means you're ready to question the script, to burn the ladder, to write your own rules. And that starts with this brutal question. What would you still do if you knew no one was watching? That's your why. Not what makes you look good, what makes you feel alive. For Naval, the answer wasn't money. It was freedom. Freedom to think, to read, to build, to be with people he loves on his terms. That was the engine. Wealth was just the byproduct. The mistake most people make? They treat wealth as the destination instead of the fuel. They think getting rich will give them purpose. But purpose isn't a prize. It's a compass. Without it, you'll build fast and break even faster. Deep question alert. If money was no object and status didn't exist, how would you spend your Tuesday afternoons? That's a clue to your real why. Share your Tuesday dream below. Your why doesn't have to be poetic. It just has to be honest. Maybe it's freedom. Maybe it's legacy. Maybe it's curiosity, peace, power, service, creation. There's no right answer, just your answer. And when you find it, you stop looking sideways. You stop comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20. You stop quitting at mile 3 because you weren't running their race to begin with. Clarity kills comparison, and comparison kills endurance. So, how do you discover your why? Start where it hurts. What did you want as a kid that you still secretly crave? What do you envy in others, not because it's flashy, but because it feels like home? What's the one thing that, when removed from your life, makes it feel gray and numb? Your why hides in the shadows of your attention. But once you shine a light, it speaks clearly. Build this. Serve this. Protect this. And when your actions align with your why, you don't need motivation. You need sleep, because every morning becomes a return to meaning, not just a task list. That's how long games are played. With quiet fire, with soft certainty, with a foundation deeper than applause. But here's the twist. Even with purpose, even with leverage, even with specific knowledge, none of it matters if you sabotage yourself. If your mind turns against you, and most do, they build a brilliant system, then burn it down with fear, doubt, and distraction. In the next section, we'll explore the inner war that keeps creators stuck, and the mental rewiring Naval believes is essential for peace and performance. Section 9, Master the Mind, Escaping the Prison You Can't See. The enemy isn't out there. It's not the market, the algorithm, or the economy. It's not your boss or your bank balance. The real enemy is the voice in your head, the one that doubts your every move, the one that panics when things get quiet, the one that whispers, "Who do you think you are?" You know that voice. Everyone does. But most people spend their whole lives obeying it, never realizing it's just noise. That voice is like a drunk roommate who never pays rent, but always has opinions about your life choices. Time to evict. Naval doesn't just talk about wealth. He talks about mental freedom. Because if your mind is at war, no amount of money will ever make you feel safe. Here's the truth. Most entrepreneurs, artists, and builders discover too late. Success without inner peace is just a louder form of suffering. You can have 1,000,000 followers, but if you can't be alone with your thoughts for 5 minutes, you're still a prisoner. Studies show that 72% of entrepreneurs report mental health concerns, with anxiety and burnout topping the list. The paradox? External success often amplifies internal chaos, unless you master the mind first. That's why Naval says, the mind is a muscle. You must train it, not with more information, but with clarity, stillness, observation, noticing the thoughts, but not believing them. You are not your thoughts. That's the unlock. You are the observer, the space, the awareness that sees the fear, hears the doubt, watches the story unfold, but doesn't have to play along. Naval discovered this not through business, but through silence, long walks, deep reading, meditation. The kind of habits that seem pointless to hustlers, but vital to creators. Because when you master the mind, you become unshakable. Not because life gets easier, but because your reactions get wiser. Think about how much energy you waste on imagined futures. Arguments that never happened. Outcomes you can't control. Most stress isn't from reality. It's from your resistance to it. Naval's antidote? Radical acceptance. He doesn't mean giving up. He means seeing clearly, wanting what is, then choosing your move from a place of presence, not panic. This isn't just spiritual fluff. It's peak performance. A calm mind makes better decisions, writes better copy, spots better opportunities, wins better games. Try this for 60 seconds. Write down the one recurring thought that steals most of your mental energy. Now ask, is this thought helping me build, or is it building walls? Share your biggest mental energy thief below. Awareness is the first step to eviction. So how do you start? Sit in silence. Just 5 minutes. Watch your thoughts like traffic. Let them pass. No judgment, no fixing, just awareness. Then ask yourself, which thoughts are helping me build, and which ones are breaking me down? Write them, question them, replace them, one by one, thought by thought. You're not building a brand. You're building a mind that can hold the weight of your future. And once your inner world is clean, your outer world responds. People feel it. Your writing sharpens, your energy stabilizes, your magnetism grows. Not because you're forcing anything, but because you've stopped resisting everything. This is the hidden advantage no one sees. The reason some people seem so fluid, so focused, so effortless, they're not lucky. They're light, mentally light, unburdened, and in that lightness they become lethal. But a clear mind is just the foundation. What you build on top of it, that's the art. And Naval's art? It's not chasing more, it's needing less. In the next section, we'll explore the paradox of desire and how reducing what you crave might be the most profitable decision you'll ever make. Section 10. Desire is a contract, the paradox of wanting less to gain more. What if the thing keeping you from peace, progress, and power was your own craving? Not craving in the obvious sense, cars, cash, status, but the subtle kind, the craving for recognition, for likes, for a rival. Naval doesn't say desire is evil. He says it's a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. Read that again. It's like signing up for a misery subscription service. Yes, I'd like to be unhappy until I hit 100K followers. Auto-renew my suffering if I don't hit it by December. Thanks. Every unchecked desire creates a gap between now and someday, between peace and pursuit, between being and becoming. And most people, they stack hundreds of these contracts and wonder why they feel exhausted. Look around. Most of society runs on desire inflation. More goals, more dreams, more plans. But here's the secret Naval whispers. Wanting less isn't weakness, it's leverage. Because when you want less, you suffer less. When you suffer less, you think clearer. When you think clearer, you build smarter. And when you build smarter, you get more of what actually matters. This is the hidden advantage of the peaceful builder. They're not pushed by lack. They're pulled by purpose. Buddhist monks show 30% more activity in brain regions associated with happiness compared to control groups. Not because they have more, but because they want less. Neuroscience is finally catching up to ancient wisdom. Desire makes you chase. Stillness lets you attract. You've seen it. The desperate entrepreneur, spamming DMs, the hungry creator, copying trends, the anxious trader, over-leveraging every move. Their desire is driving, but it's also blinding. Now contrast that with the person who's already whole, who creates from calm, who builds because they must, not because they're trying to fill a hole, who doesn't beg the world to approve, because they've already said yes to themselves. That's rare. That's magnetic. That's Naval. So, how do you tame desire? You start by watching it. Every time you say, I'll be happy when, pause. Ask, is that true? Every time you feel envy, pause. Ask, what part of me feels incomplete? You're not killing ambition. You're refining it, upgrading it. You're turning loud, anxious hunger into quiet, precise alignment. And when you do that, your desires don't disappear. They purify. You still want. But now you want with clarity, not desperation. With power, not panic. Uncomfortable exercise. Name one thing you're desperately chasing right now. Now imagine you already have it. What would actually change about your daily experience? Often the answer is not much, and that's the key insight. And here's the paradox. The less you need, the more dangerous you become. Why? Because you're unbribable. You can't be bought, rushed, or manipulated. You act from choice, not reaction. And in a world where most people are drowning in invisible contracts, they feel that. They trust it. That's how you build real resonance. Not with viral tricks, but with internal stillness. Because the quieter you are inside, the louder your work becomes. So ask yourself, what's one thing I'm chasing that's making me smaller, not bigger? Now, release it, just for today. Feel the weight leave your body, and notice what replaces it. Often, it's not apathy, it's energy, the kind that builds empires, not from hunger, but from peace. But if wanting less is power, what about money? Isn't money the ultimate desire? Naval says no. Money isn't the goal. Money is a tool for time, for autonomy, for optionality. But most people never use it that way. In the next section, we'll finally go there, deep into the mechanics of wealth, how to build it, keep it, and use it to buy the one thing that matters more than anything else, your time. Section 11. Buy your time back. The real reason to build wealth. Most people don't want money. They want what they think money will get them. Freedom, time, control. But instead of buying those things, they buy distractions. Bigger houses, shinier watches, louder lives. They're like people who buy gym memberships to get fit, then use the parking pass to get closer to the entrance, missing the point entirely. Naval cuts through the noise. The ultimate purpose of wealth is not to signal success. It's to own your calendar, that's it. Not yachts, not fame, not power. Just the quiet, rare luxury of waking up and doing exactly what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want. The average American watches 33 hours of TV per week, but claims they don't have time to build a side business. Meanwhile, 65% of self-made millionaires have at least 3 income streams. The difference? They bought back their time first, then used it to build. This is the secret of the wealthy few who seem weightless. They're not smarter. They're not even always richer. They're just free. Free from the alarm clock. Free from meetings they dread. Free from clients they secretly resent. They have bought back the most scarce, most precious, most irreplaceable asset in existence: time. And once you understand that, the whole game changes. You stop trying to get rich to impress. You start getting rich to disappear from the grind. But here's the trap. Most people sell their time to make money, then never use that money to buy their time back. They upgrade everything but their freedom. Naval calls this the trap of deferred life. Work hard now, live later, but later never comes. Because the habits that kept you in the rat race don't suddenly dissolve with a bigger paycheck. If you're not careful, you'll earn a fortune, then schedule yourself into slavery. Meetings, deadlines, expectations. You'll trade one cage for another, just made of fancier bars. So, how do you break the cycle? First, get clear. What does freedom look like for you? Be honest. Is it a 4-hour workday? No email, living by the ocean, coding at midnight and sleeping until 10? Now, reverse engineer it. What kind of assets fund that lifestyle? What kind of clients don't interfere with it? What kind of business model protects, not pollutes, your time? Let's get specific. If you could eliminate one recurring time commitment from your life forever, that meeting, that commute, that obligation, what would it be? And what would you do with those reclaimed hours? Drop your answer below. Let's crowdsource our freedom. Naval didn't aim to be busy. He aimed to be sovereign. That's the word, sovereignty. Owning your time, your attention, your energy. When someone asks, "Are you free Thursday at 3 p.m.?" you get to say no, without guilt, without justification. Not because you're lazy, but because you're building on your terms. That's the real flex. And wealth, it becomes a tool, not a trophy. Naval sees wealth as optionality. The ability to say no. The ability to walk away. The ability to change your mind, your direction, your life, without asking for permission. That's power. Quiet, invisible, invincible power. The kind that doesn't scream, but echoes. So ask yourself, what parts of your calendar feel like a prison? What would it cost to eliminate just one of them, forever? Start there, because buying back an hour of your life might be the most profitable deal you ever make. And over time, hour by hour, you reclaim your life, not with noise, but with silence, not with ambition, but with alignment. But once you buy back your time, then what? What do you do with it? How do you avoid falling into distraction, addiction, or aimless drifting? In the next section, Naval reveals the one pursuit that gives time its deepest meaning, and why happiness, unlike wealth, is not found, but trained. Section 12. Happiness is a skill. Train your inner state like a craft. You've made the money. You've bought the time. But now comes the part no one prepared you for. What do you do when there's nothing left to chase? Most people panic. They fill the silence with noise. More goals, more news, more projects, more scrolling. It's like finally getting to the finish line and immediately signing up for another race because you don't know how to stop running. Retirement depression is real, folks. But Naval offers something quieter, more dangerous, and far more liberating. Happiness is not something you find. It's something you train. It's not out there. It's an internal operating system. And if you don't upgrade it, you'll stay trapped in the same cycles, just on a better-looking treadmill. The world sold you a lie. Success, then happiness. Build, grind, win, and then you'll feel okay. But the goalpost always moves. The dopamine always fades. Naval flips the model. Start with happiness. Build from there. Because when you're no longer building to escape suffering, you build with clarity. You build with love. And ironically, you build better, faster, freer. Harvard's 75-year happiness study found that relationship quality is the #1 predictor of life satisfaction, not wealth, not achievement. Happy people aren't happy because they're successful. They're successful because they're happy. The causation runs backwards. So, what is happiness really? Naval breaks it down with surgical clarity. Happiness is peace in motion. It's the absence of craving, the silence beneath the noise. It's not about feeling good all the time. It's about not needing life to be different in order to feel whole. It's the ability to sit alone in a room, no phone, no goals, no input, and feel complete. That's power, not because you did anything, but because you don't need to. But if happiness is trainable, what's the workout? Naval's method is simple, but not easy. First, watch your thoughts. Most of them are old loops: fear, judgment, comparison, regret. Catch them, label them, don't fight. Just observe. Second, breathe. Not just casually, deliberately. Conscious breath brings you back from the storm of the mind. Third, choose your inputs. Books over news, walks over emails, deep presence over endless urgency. Finally, remind yourself, desire is the enemy of peace. The fewer desires you have, the fewer conditions you place on your own joy. 30-second experiment. Rate your happiness right now, 1 to 10. Now, name 3 things you're grateful for in this exact moment. Rate again. Did it shift? That's the skill in action. And here's the twist most miss. When you become truly happy, calm, rooted, sovereign, you stop making desperate decisions. You don't rush the launch. You don't say yes out of fear. You don't build things just to get applause. And that's why inner peace isn't just spiritual fluff. It's tactical advantage. Happy people build better empires because they're not building from emptiness. They're building from overflow. So, how do you know you're on the right track? Naval offers this test. Can you be happy for no reason? Not because of a deal, not because of a DM, not because of a bank balance, just because you exist. Because your breath is steady, because your life, even in its chaos, is yours. If you can say yes, even for a second, you've already won. Everything else is bonus. But happiness, like any skill, fades without practice. It needs daily reps. Naval reads, walks, meditates, reflects. Not because he's bored, but because he's training. He's sculpting the most valuable asset in existence, his state. And that state, it leaks into every word, every decision, every product. You can't fake it. But when you earn it, it becomes your edge. And here's your next question. If you had all the time, money, and freedom in the world, what would you do simply because it feels like breathing? The answer isn't just your passion, it's your practice. In the next section, we'll uncover how Naval turns happiness into a habit, and why discipline, ironically, is the only true path to freedom. Section 13. Discipline equals freedom, the quiet structure that unlocks joy. It sounds like a contradiction. How can structure create freedom? How can rules unlock joy? Isn't freedom the absence of constraint? Naval says no. Naval knows better. He says discipline equals freedom, not as a slogan, but as a lived truth. Because here's the hidden pattern behind every fulfilled, peaceful, productive life. The more you master yourself, the less the world can master you. Freedom is not doing whatever you feel like. It's being able to do what matters, even when you don't feel like it. It's like how having a morning routine means you don't spend 45 minutes every day deciding whether to shower first or check Instagram first. That's 273 hours a year you just got back. You're welcome. Think of the most successful people you admire, not for their money, but for their calm, their clarity, their creative output. Every one of them has structure, not imposed by others, but chosen. Morning rituals, creative boundaries, deep work time blocks. Naval doesn't wake up and wonder what to do. He's already decided, because decision fatigue is a tax on freedom, and discipline is the antidote. Not rigidity, not self-punishment, but intentional repetition. The art of showing up for yourself, again and again, until it becomes who you are. Research shows that 92% of highly successful people have morning routines. Not because they're naturally disciplined, but because discipline compounds. Each automated decision frees mental energy for what matters. Most people wait for motivation. They treat consistency like a mood, but moods are fragile. Discipline is durable. It doesn't care how you feel. It just asks, what's the next step? You don't need to be inspired to meditate, write, build, reflect. You just need a system, a commitment, a floor, not a ceiling. And over time, that system becomes your sanctuary, a place where chaos can't enter, where you return to yourself daily, not in crisis, but in craft. Naval isn't obsessed with schedules. He's obsessed with alignment, and alignment requires boundaries. He chooses his diet, his inputs, his sleep, his mental hygiene, not because he's obsessed with control, but because he's tasted the freedom that flows from inner order. When you're clear, rested, fed, and focused, your best ideas don't need to be dragged out of you. They arrive, effortlessly, because you've made space for them. Discipline isn't about doing more. It's about doing less of what drains you, less reacting, less deciding, less improvising. When your habits are dialed, your energy is preserved. And with that energy, you create. You love, you think, you scale, you move. This is the edge most people ignore. They chase hacks, shortcuts, dopamine spikes. But you're building something deeper, a rhythm. One that lasts beyond the hype cycle. One that whispers, I do this because it's who I am now. Your discipline audit. What's one daily habit that, if you did it consistently for 90 days, would transform your life? Not 10 habits, just one. Commit to it publicly below. Let's hold each other accountable. So, how do you start? Pick one anchor habit, just one. Maybe it's writing 10 minutes every day. Maybe it's a morning walk, a phone-free first hour, a breath before you speak. Don't wait for the new month, the new year, the new identity. Just start, and then start again tomorrow. Over time, it becomes effortless, then inevitable, then invisible. And that's the goal. For your highest choices to become your default settings. But discipline isn't just about the body or the calendar. It's about the mind. Because a mind without discipline is a slave to impulse. In the next section, you'll explore how Naval cultivates mental resilience, not through willpower, but through wisdom, and how letting go, paradoxically, is often the most disciplined move of all. Section 14, Let Go to Gain, the Discipline of Detachment. Here's the paradox that breaks most ambitious minds. The tighter you grip, the less you hold. The more you chase, the more it slips away. Naval doesn't preach hustle. He doesn't scream about forcing results. Instead, he teaches something more radical and far more difficult: detachment. Letting go of outcomes, of ego, of the need to control every variable, not as a form of surrender, but as a form of ultimate power. Because when you stop needing everything to go your way, you become unshakable. It's like trying to catch a butterfly. The harder you chase, the faster it flies. But sit still, be interesting, and sometimes it lands on your shoulder. Markets, audiences, and opportunities work the same way. Think about the builder who checks metrics every hour, tweaks every word, obsesses over every comment. They're not optimizing, they're drowning. Now, picture the one who builds from clarity, shows up daily, and then releases the result, who trusts the system, who lets the seed grow without digging it up every morning. That's detachment. It's not apathy, it's trust. In the process, in your effort, in the long-term curve of your craft. A study of 1,200 entrepreneurs found that those who checked metrics daily were 3 times more likely to burn out and 2 times more likely to quit within 2 years. The winners? They reviewed metrics weekly or monthly, focusing on trends, not noise. Naval says, play iterated games. Compound interest is found in relationships, in learning, and in self-awareness. But compounding only works if you don't sabotage it by panicking mid-process. Most people break the chain right before the curve steepens. Why? Because they can't sit with uncertainty. Detachment trains you to sit, to hold the tension without reacting, to stay calm while the results are still forming. But how do you detach when the stakes feel high? When it's your art, your dream, your income on the line? First, by remembering this. You are not your work. Your worth isn't tied to the outcome. You're playing infinite games now. One launch doesn't define you. One rejection doesn't label you. The market doesn't owe you a response on your timeline. And that's okay. You're building signal, and signal often starts in silence. Second, detachment doesn't mean disconnection. It means presence without pressure. You show up fully, you care deeply, but then you release. You post, you ship, you send. And then you go for a walk. You cook, you read, you breathe, you trust that the universe has better timing than your ego. That results follow rhythm. That forcing ruins everything. Practice detachment now. What outcome are you white-knuckling right now? A launch? A response? A number? Write it down. Now add, I've done my part. The rest is not mine to control. Feel different? Share your release below. Naval lives this. He writes when he feels pulled. He doesn't chase algorithms. He doesn't predict markets. He creates space, shares truth, and lets go. And because of that, his impact feels different. Not desperate, not thirsty, but inevitable. Inevitable because it's aligned. And alignment multiplies in the absence of obsession. So ask yourself, what are you gripping too tightly? What if you could do the work and release the result? What if your job wasn't to control, but to create with devotion and walk away with grace? That's the discipline most never master. But if you do, it's the ultimate leverage, because you're no longer building for applause. You're building from inner freedom, from peace. And peace always wins the long game. But what happens when you do win? When the money, time, clarity, and peace arrive? What's left to build? What legacy do you leave behind? Not just in code or content, but in minds and hearts. In the next and final section, you'll discover Naval's answer to the ultimate question: what makes a life truly rich? Section 15, the final lever, a rich life beyond money. So you've built wealth, you've bought back your time, you've mastered your mind, you've even let go of the need to win. What's left? What do you build once the external battles are won? Naval's answer is simple, profound, and quietly revolutionary. You build yourself, not as a project, not to fix something broken, but as a practice of becoming, of evolving, of returning again and again to the version of you that is most true. The longest-running study on adult development, Harvard's Grant study, found that the quality of relationships at age 50 is the strongest predictor of life satisfaction at age 80. Not net worth, not achievements, relationships and personal growth. Because here's the secret most people miss. The richest life isn't the one with the most zeros. It's the one where every moment feels like yours, where your calendar reflects your soul, where your work feels like an extension of your curiosity, where your relationships are chosen, not tolerated, where your mind is light, and your heart even lighter. That's the real wealth. That's what Naval spent his life chasing. Not the external trophies, but the internal alignment, the silent knowing, I'm living as me. It's the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich is when your bank account impresses others. Wealthy is when your Tuesday afternoon impresses you. So, how do you build a life like that? You start by subtracting. Less noise, less ego, less performing. Then you add, not obligations, but essence. What lights you up? What slows time down for you? What conversations feel like home? What problems feel like play? Naval's life is not an accident. It's a series of intelligent choices. Chosen environments, chosen inputs, chosen games, and most of all, chosen peace. But peace isn't passive. It takes work to stay calm in a chaotic world. It takes courage to say no to opportunities that don't align. It takes clarity to walk a path that few understand. That's why Naval's greatest advice is not about money or fame or even happiness. It's about awareness. Know yourself, truly, brutally, compassionately. Know what energizes you, what drains you, what triggers you, what heals you. Because when you know yourself, every other decision becomes obvious. And when your decisions are obvious, your life flows. Quietly, powerfully, unapologetically. Final reflection. If you could only work on 3 things for the rest of your life, one skill, one relationship, one project, what would they be? That's your compass. Share your 3 below, and let's see what patterns emerge in our collective wisdom. So, where do you go from here? Back inward, back to breath, back to simplicity. Naval's life is a minimalist's masterpiece. Not empty, but essential. And yours can be too. Start with one shift, one decision, one truth you've been avoiding. Honor it, act on it, let it shape your day, then your week, then your life. You don't need more strategies, you need more honesty. The final lever isn't leverage at all, it's liberation. The decision to stop living a borrowed script, to stop waiting for permission, to stop hoarding potential, and instead, to start living like your life already matters. Because it does. And when you live like that, your very presence becomes a gift, your clarity, a mirror, your peace, a beacon. So here's your final challenge. Don't just admire Naval's life. Author your own, not a copy, a craft, not optimized for growth, but for truth. That's the richest life of all. Not one you chase, one you choose. Build the life only you can live. You've reached the end. But this isn't the end. It's the beginning of a quieter revolution, one that starts not with noise, but with clarity. Naval didn't hand you a blueprint. He handed you a mirror. Now you see it, don't you? The truth you've always known but couldn't name. You don't need more. You need less, but better. You don't need to chase. You need to choose. Congratulations, you just watched a 60-plus minute video about a guy who reads books and tweets. But really, you watched a masterclass in designing a life worth living. The fact that you're still here, that says everything about who you're becoming. So here's the question. What will you do now that you remember you're free? Not someday, now. Will you keep scrolling, keep following, or will you pause and begin? Because the real work doesn't happen in books or videos. It happens in mornings where you don't hit snooze, in conversations where you speak truth, not performance, in decisions where you say no, not to be rebellious, but because it's not yours. You don't need more information. You need integration, repetition, silence, stillness, discipline, love. Your commitment. In the comments below, share one specific action you'll take in the next 48 hours based on what you've learned. Not a vague intention, a specific action. Tag a friend who needs to hear this. Let's build a community of builders who choose freedom over followers. Start with one thing, not 10, just one. Maybe it's cutting a meeting. Maybe it's taking that walk. Maybe it's meditating for 2 minutes. Maybe it's unsubscribing from someone else's dream. Your next level isn't hidden. It's ignored, buried under shoulds and someday and noise. Unearth it, breathe it in, build from it, and if you're still not sure where to start, and try this. Make one move today that fit your future self would whisper thank you for. That's it. No fanfare, no audience, just you, choosing you, again and again, until it feels like coming home. Because in the end, this wasn't just a book, it was a remembering. That wealth is optionality, that happiness is a skill, that time is the real flex, that peace is the prize, and that you, yes, you, are the builder, the founder, the artist, the player of long games, the master of invisible empires. Remember, 99% of people will watch this and do nothing, but you're not 99% of people. You're still here. You made it to the end. That already puts you in the 1% who finish what they start. Now, be in the 0.1% who act on what they learn. So, go, write, build, walk, pause, choose, live. Not perfectly, but consciously. Because the only permission you ever needed was your own. And if this shifted something in you, even slightly, share it. Not for the algorithm, for the person who needs to hear what you heard, who's waiting for permission they already have, who's one video away from changing everything. Your move.